Bit Nerds is your YouTube car game show.
JP, currently on Bring a Trailer, is a one-owner 2010 Aston Martin Rapide. This car is being offered for sale by our buddies down at More Imports in Monterey, California. The car has 36,000 miles on it and is offered in this very interesting shade of what's called hardly green finished example. Is a hardly green finished example. So that's the name of the color, I guess. And a sandstorm leather upholstery. JP, it's a 6-liter normally aspirated V12 with a 6-speed automatic. This was Aston Martin's sort of answer to the Panamera, really, because it's a 4-door gasoline engine platform. And it's distinctly Aston Martin. It's a pretty car. But this car, to the best of my knowledge, JP, this car was never a commercial success. I don't think any car that Aston has ever sold has been a commercial success in the United States. I scratch my head all the time and wonder how they're still in business. I think they make very beautiful cars, but they just don't hold the cachet in the States the way they are looked at and lusted after in Europe, especially everywhere around the UK, where they're just, cliche or not, they're royalty. Everybody loves these cars. But in the US, they're a tough sell. 6-liter V12 only made 470 horsepower, 443 pound-foot of torque. JP, maybe they should have slapped a couple of turbos on it and got to 600 horsepower, and then people would have been interested. This is a Carfax verified one-owner car. JP, these are super soft in the secondary market. Add to the fact that it's this just unbelievably feminine shade of green, and I don't think this car has hardly anything going for it. I'll try to look up what the MSRP is while you and Sahan talk about the car, and we'll come back to that number. But I'm going to tell you, JP, I'm struggling to see if this car is worth even 35 or 40 cents on the dollar from what it was brand new. And it's got fairly low miles at just 36,000. JP, I hand over to you the Aston Martin Rapide. I bet most car guys don't even know what this is. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think this car's dead on arrival. I love, our friends over at More. They're good people, and we're definitely going to keep our fingers crossed for them. But in a soft market, a shaky market, anything where people are kind of, holding back, this is not quality inventory. This is something that, look, unless you're willing to dump it, nobody is looking for a Rapide. There are so many options in the big luxury 4-door saloons, and you're right, Deeb, nobody ever really liked these. I just what do you do with this car? This car, even if you can get it for a steal at, like you said, 30 cents or 20 cents on the dollar, great. In a year, this car will be 20 cents on whatever you pay for it. Sahan, what do you think of this boat anchor?
Oh, man, this car sucks.
Yeah.
This is rough. There's just the thing about this car is that it doesn't do anything better than any other car. There are so many sedans, luxury sedans that look nicer than this car, that will break less than this car, and when they do break will be less expensive than this car. The only value of this car would be if somebody could buy it for like $10,000 and put it on airbags and lay it out at a car show. They would be the only one with it. That's if you put nice enough wheels on it and laid it out at a car show, it would be really cool in that shade of color, and nobody would have one. So that's of value. But then I don't even want to talk about what happens when those headlights fog up, which they're about to in like 10 seconds. I was like, it's just this is. I think John is right. This was a poor choice. This is not good inventory.
What's it going to bring?
All right, JP, hear me out on this. The base price of a 2010 Aston Martin Rapide is $202,000. You gotta figure almost all of them have around $20,000 to $30,000 worth of options on that car. So the MSRP on this car was likely around $220,000 plus, and then add another 10% for tax and tags, and you get the sense that this guy was in this car almost $250,000. Our car is currently sitting at $40,000 on. There's so many photos of this thing, and it didn't help. On just 4 bids, and it closes in 2 days. JP, Sahan, I'm glad you guys are sitting down. I hope everybody in the Nerd Herd is sitting down. The average price of an Aston Martin Rapide in the secondary market is just $52,000. And John, I cannot tell you how this car is worth more than 1 penny more than that. So despite being fairly low miles, despite being very decent condition, despite being an unusual, and I mean very rare shade of hardly green metallic paint, and a very fairly decent presentation, as the boys down at Moore's Imports always do, I don't think this car is worth more than the average, and I'm going to give you the bid of just $52,000. But I would say at 52 grand, I don't think it'll sell. My guess is this guy's looking for $80,000. Honey, that ain't happening.
Yep, I'm going to go 45, say it finds another 5 grand, but I think this car is just, like I said before, it's DOA. Sahan, where are you at?
I mean, I'd be surprised if it didn't go backwards and all of a sudden go to 15 grand. But
I'm shocked. I'm with you, son. I'm shocked it's at 40 now. Like I would not not pay $40,000 for this car. I wouldn't pay plenty for this car.
Ever. Oh my God. I don't know. I'm with you, John. I think this thing, I guess somebody wants this car, and if they do, maybe they're going to spend $48,000, or they're going to attempt to spend $48,000 on it, and then God is going to do them a favor, and it's going to fail to sell, and then they're going to go buy a 7 Series or so. Really, like, what? Who's buying this car for $52,000?
This doesn't even make sense for a baller on the budget, because at $50,000 you have real options of cars that are way better than this one. If you could get it for 25, okay, I could see a stripper driving this car back and forth in Vegas until it breaks, and then she's got to get her baby mama or baby daddy to come and pay for the repairs and stuff like that.
At German Motors.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this car, JP, I think this car should have run no reserve. I think it would have found 50 or 60 grand if it ran no reserve.
Yeah, I think that's true. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. Hey guys, you got to check out our friends at Godden Porsche and Godden Classic of Las Vegas. If you're looking for parts or service, or if you want to add a classic Porsche or even a new Porsche to your collection, give Godden Classic a call. Guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair.
3 days later.
All right, JP, we're going to check back in on this one-owner 2010 Aston Martin Rapide in this very unusual, hardly green finished metallic example. Our car is on Bring a Trailer out of Monterey, sold by our buddies, or offered for sale by our buddies at More Imports. The car has 36,000 miles, a naturally aspirated 6-liter V12, but the colorway is certainly polarizing, JP, to say the least. And this model is just not something I would consider a mass-adopted commercial success. So what did we think this car was going to do? John, I gave you a bid of $52,000, which is the average selling price for this year Aston Martin Rapide. You took the under at $45,000, and Sahan, our buddy the Persian Pillow, who joined us as third nerd on the last show, took the under at split the difference between us, JP, at $48,000. So, Gerd, it's a nice condition but unusual colorway, super niche luxury sedan. What do you think this would have done with decent marketing on Bring a Trailer?
Hey, where was it when you guys were looking at it?
Oh, boy, Gerd, that's a good question. I don't remember. We don't keep that track anymore. I used to keep that number.
I would say that looks kind of like the ice green on the Porsche, doesn't it? Color.
It really does. Yeah. I think we said that on the last episode too, for sure.
I'm going to go with like 56.
56. So Gerd took the over. JP, would you believe that our car hammered for $45,007, $7, where it's sold, and it gets even more interesting from here, on just 11 bids. Wow. JP, this car got no love, no action, 45,000. Look, when I gave you 52, that's the industry average for these cars selling in the United States over the last couple of years. When our car trips for 45, that is a 10% reduction in the market price. And look, this car should have been, it had the right miles and an unusual colorway. So I would say, you ask, is it that bad? I mean, this is a 12-15% subtraction from the market average. I'd say this car is telling us that the market is softer still. This car helps answer that question, JP. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it answers the question specifically for this sector of, call it classic and enthusiast cars, because this car barely sits in, call it enthusiast car land, right? I mean, it is an Aston Martin, which you think of sports cars when you think of an Aston Martin, but this is a luxury sedan. It's definitely not classic. It's barely in there, right? Not classic, but luxury sedans are always soft. I mean, everybody knows that if you go out and buy a brand new BMW 7 Series or 8 Series or whatever. I've lost track of what series is what anymore over there. But when you go out and get a big old saloon, even a Porsche Panamera or whatever, they depreciate more than just about anything, any big Audi or Jaguar when you drive them off the lot. So Aston Martin, with its questionable reliability, especially even when they're young. I mean, do you really want a 10, 15-year-old Aston Martin, even if it has low miles? You know it's going to hurt when it comes to you servicing and repairing this car. I think 45 grand says, hey, you know what? Things aren't as bad as people say they are, because to me, I honestly, I don't think I would have bid as high as if this car were at zero, if we were looking at this car when we looked at it, if it had just listed, it was still had 7 days to go, I'd have been like, I don't know, 25 grand or something, because I personally wouldn't pay more than 20 grand for this thing. I think this thing's a boat anchor. Gerd, what do you think of the result?
Yeah, but there's been somebody that's been waiting for one of these to go that inexpensive. And I mean, in the car business, we see this all the time as far as the luxury sedans, like you were saying, JP.
Yeah. And that's a good point. I mean, there are a lot of people in the wings that absolutely loved this car when it was brand new and it was $200-something thousand, and they knew, forget it, I'm just going to wait a couple of years. Well, you're waiting a while, but this is still kind of like a brand new car, right?
Well, it's 2010, so it's in brand new car condition, but this car, it's hard to imagine, JP. This car is basically 15 model years old.
Yeah.
And it went from it was like $202,000 was MSRP. With options, it was easily $220 to $230. And now this car is barely worth 22% on the dollar with 36,000 miles, and it looks to be in excellent condition mechanically and cosmetically, as far as we can tell from two-dimensional images. That's just brutal, John. And then good luck, trying to find parts and getting service for less than $300 an hour. I mean, I think the smart people stay away from cars like this. They could truly be problematic.
Well, I mean, and then there are certain types of people that want to be a baller on a budget. Is this something that a stripper would get into at one of those car lots where they can put something down to get in on buy here, pay here number? Maybe not quite there, but really,
her pimp would buy it.
Her pimp would buy it for her, or the pimp would be driving around. Yeah. This is a ton of car for not a lot of money. And let's say you have a handful of other cars, because let's face it, the reality is the person that owns this car is not a stripper. The reality of the person that buys this car is someone that has 2, 3, 5, 10 other cars or whatever, and they're going to be driving this occasionally. This is going to be a special occasion car, something to go to a wedding in, or go out on a big night, or go to dinner with your wife or something like that. And then on the days that you want to go out and do some sports car stuff, you're going to get in your 911 or your Advantage or whatever. This car is, whoever buys this car is probably not going to be driving it a whole lot. Probably going to own it for 2, 3, 5, 10 years, and when they sell it, it's going to have another 4,000 or 5,000 miles on it. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let us know. Does this car's result equal what you would call a crash in the market, or is this just what happens with luxury sedans? Or do you have another take on the result? Let us know. We always love reading your... Hey guys, thanks for watching this clip from a live episode of Bid Nerds. We go live every Sunday and Wednesday night at 6:30, and you can join the conversation. We hope to see you on the next live episode of Bid Nerds. Bid Nerds is your YouTube car game show.